Hello and welcome to Cupcake Addiction's basic vanilla sugar cookie recipe and tutorial, where I'm going to be showing you my absolute favourite vanilla sugar cookie recipe, perfect for decorated cookies. If you're not already subscribed to my channel MyCupcake Addiction, make sure you do so you don't miss any of these fabulous upcoming sugar cookie tutorials. The things that you'll need for today's recipe: I've got some caster sugar or superfine sugar, a large egg, a little bit of plain flour, some baking powder. I'm using some good quality vanilla extract. I've got 2 spoons and a spatula. I've got some more plain flour sifted in my bowl, and I've got some butter in my mixing bowl. I'm using a whisk attachment mixer, and I'm lucky enough to have a rotating bowl today. You'll also need to have your oven preheated as per the recipe below. You'll need a cookie tray lined with greaseproof paper. You'll need a cooling rack, a rolling pin, and just an offset spatula or something like a sharp knife that you can use to get under your cookies with. I'll leave all of the recipe quantities, measurements and conversions in the description box below. And if you're looking for the full method and recipe so you guys can print it out and keep it at home, head on over to the MyCupcake Addiction blog. If you're not already following the blog, it's mycupcakeaddictionblog.com. The first thing that you want to do is you want to take your baking powder, and we're just going to stir this in through our sifted plain flour. This is going to give your cookies a little bit of rise, but not so much that they spread. Then you want to take your caster sugar and tip it into that mixer. We're going to turn those beaters on. We're going to whip that till it's really, really light and fluffy. Make sure you scrape down the sides of your bowl using a spatula so that you don't end up with any uncreamed butter sugar mixture. And what you're looking for is this really nice lightening in colour that you can see. So it's really lightened up from that yellowy butter. It's a lot lighter and fluffier. Now you want to take your egg and you just want to tip that in. You want to beat this once again until that egg's fully combined and your mixture is still beautiful and light and fluffy. Perfect. Now you want to add in your flour. About 1/3 of the flour goes in at this point. So I'm just going to use my cup measure just to scoop in roughly 1/3 of that flour. And then you want to start your mixer on a really low speed. Once your 1/3 of your flour has been combined, add in your second third. And I only add in about 2/3 of flour this way. And then the last bit of flour, I do it by hand just because it's not as hard on my mixer that way. So you can see here it's really still kind of quite lumpy and chunky. So lift up your mixer, which will be working quite hard. Add in your vanilla essence at this point, so just a good teaspoon of vanilla or whatever flavouring you've decided to flavour your sugar cookies with, and just mix that through. You can also add your flavouring at the stage where you're creaming your butter and your sugar if you like. Tip in your remaining flour, and I'm just going to use my spatula or a wooden spoon just to mix that through nicely. And once you're happy that it's all relatively combined so you can't see any more of that white flour, you want to take your bowl and we're just going to dump that out onto the bench. So tip it out. It's going to still look really quite crumbly. This is where your hands come in. So you want to knead that for 2 to 3 minutes, and you want to take it from that kind of crumbly floury mix. You can see here it's really coming together to form our nice dough-like ball. Once you're happy that you've got this kind of doughy consistency, shape it into a really nice smooth ball, and then we're going to wrap it completely in cling film so that it's completely airtight. So whatever plastic wrap you've got, just make sure that it's airtight before we pop that off into the fridge. You want to let this set for between 1 hour to 6 hours is ideal before you use it. You can leave that in the fridge for up to 3 days, and it also freezes really well. So when it comes out of the fridge, you just want to unwrap it, and I just like to work with about 1/3 of mine at a time. Once you knead this down, you're going to see it really crumble up again because it's going to be quite firm. This has actually been in the fridge for about 12 hours, this particular recipe. So you'll see it crumble down. Don't panic here because once again, the warmth of your hands is going to bring it back together. It will still be chilly though, so don't be tempted to over knead it. You just want it to get back to this nice workable consistency. The reason I only work with 1/3 of my mix at a time is because once that dough starts to warm up too much, you need to sit it back in the fridge for another hour or 2 to get it back to a chilled consistency to work with. So working with 1/3 means your other dough is still cold and you can bring it out and work with that once you're finished with this first lot. Sprinkle down a really generous amount of that spare flour that you had as well as on top of the dough, and just use your roller just to roll it out. So you can see here how well it's rolling, but I'm also keeping it moving so that it doesn't stick to the bench and so that I get a really nice even thickness. That's about the thickness I like to go with for my cookie dough. Take your cookie cutters now and just cut your shapes. You'll notice I give them a little jiggle back and forth, and that's just to get a really nice clean cut around the edges. The amount of flour we've put down on that bench should mean that your cookie shapes just come off that mat really nicely. You want to fill your tray and make sure that you're using all of your available cookie dough here. So you'll see I'm using all of the little scrappy pieces as much as I can use with that cookie cutter shape. Pop those off into the oven and they're going to cook really quickly, like 7 to 10 minutes. You'll know they're done when they just turn golden brown around the edges. Just be careful with them as you're transferring them from your cookie tray onto your cooling rack because they're quite fragile when they're just baked. I'll be showing you how to decorate these as these little princess crowns coming up shortly, but stay tuned to the My Cupcake Addiction channel because I've got lots more great ideas and uses for this absolutely delicious cookie recipe. Thanks very much for watching.